Good evening, everyone. Districts 7020 and 7030, welcome to the details on Hurricane Beryl. On July 1st, as many of us know, at the start of this new Rotary year, Beryl started her course of destruction, starting in the Southern Caribbean in District 7030 and continuing her tirade through into District 7020. This evening, we bring to you an update on what's going on. And at this time, I'd like to welcome our District Governor, Debbie Rupchand, to give us those details. Welcome, DG Debbie.
Thank you very much, PDG Sonia. Good evening to everyone on the call. Let me start by saying that my thoughts continue to be with all these citizens who have been affected by Hurricane Beryl within 7020 and 7030. I also want to thank the persons to date who have given donations via the online portal. From District 7030, I see as of this afternoon, we crossed 20,000 US in donations. And that is really commendable. The donations are needed, and we truly appreciate the support from all of those who have given so far. Later, after my update, we do have 4 of our PDGs who would have visited the islands of Canoan, Carriacou, and Union Island yesterday. PDGs Sonia, David, Brian, and Leslie. And I'm sure we would hear a bit from them too in the question and answer segment of the session. So July 1st, when I picked up office, it coincided with Hurricane Beryl. What I would say is this has been a very busy time for District 7030, and I'm sure it's been the same for 7020. The islands that were severely impacted in both districts would have been in Barbados. Well, Barbados, it was more the fishing industry and the coastlines. And in Cayman Islands, you would have had strong storm surges, but they had manageable effects. In Grenada, we had Carriacou and Petit Martinique, which were pretty badly impacted, and you would see pictures as we move along in the presentation. In Jamaica, the southern coast and the St. Elizabeth Parish, and in St. Vincent, quite a few islands in the Grenadines, Bequia, Canoan, Mairo, Palm Island, Union Island, and Petite St. Vincent. So with respect to the response from District 7020 and 7030, the immediate response was to, of course, offer helping hands where we could have on the different islands and supplies that would have been needed. In the short term, we intend to help the affected communities wherever we can through funds and materials to help them to reestablish their day-to-day operations. In the long term, though, we plan to implement projects that would help to rebuild the affected communities. On screen, you would see the 2 flyers from the different districts with the donation portals that were set up, and which I would have mentioned at the start of the presentation. Apart from those portals, there's also the opportunity for persons in the USA who may need for tax exemption purposes. You can do a donation through the DNA RAG, and the links are on screen, and Maria would also put them in the chat for those who may wish to do a donation through either of those links. Now, zeroing in a bit on the islands that were impacted, we have Barbados, and as you see on screen, the damage to the fishing industry is one of the major damages they are coming out of it, and of course the coastlines. Thankfully in Barbados, none of the residents of Barbados were actually displaced by Hurricane Beryl. And with respect to Barbados, we know that the government of Barbados has pledged to support the rebuilding of the fishing industry in Barbados. Moving on to Grenada, where you had most severely impacted the islands of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. There we had a total of 7,000 displaced residents on those 2 islands. Many of you would know that the eye of the hurricane had passed over Carriacou and Petit Martinique, leaving 98% of the buildings on those islands destroyed. In terms of mainland Grenada, to the north of the island, there would have been the loss of roofs and major destruction to the agricultural sector in particular. In Carriacou, the mangrove was destroyed. Their boats and marina was significantly damaged. There was major destruction of the electrical grid system and the communication system. Temporary communication systems are in place and major cleanup efforts are underway on Carriacou. At the moment, there's a sufficient supply of food, water, and tarpaulins in place to supply the immediate short-term needs in Carriacou. Next steps is that the cleanup exercise in Carriacou must continue. Building repairs need to be started. There's a need for the communication system on the island to be fully restored. And there's the Lester-Lauriston Development Committee, which we hope to rename as a Rotary Community Corp on the island of Carriacou. Moving to Jamaica and District 7020, the Southern Coast and St. Elizabeth Parish were the areas that were severely impacted. And that area is known as the breadbasket of Jamaica. And that's the donations portal with respect to 7020 on screen. Before I move off of Jamaica, the major impact to Jamaica is the impact on the food security. There were school buildings that were destroyed in Jamaica, impacting even some of the Interact programs across there. They have had a slow restart of the electricity grid for rural areas only. You have 50% of the grid active, and the restoration in terms of the electricity is expected to take weeks. The lack of electricity, of course, affects the water supply and communications on the island. And with respect to Jamaica, Hurricane Beryl was followed by a tropical wave with heavy rains and also flooding. So again, in Jamaica, there's a need to coordinate the restoration of the electricity, the affected areas, and there's still time to do a complete assessment in Jamaica. Moving on to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the islands, I would have identified them earlier, of Canoan, Union Island, Mairo, Bequia, Palm Island, and Petit St. Vincent. In those islands, we have displaced residents. The numbers are undetermined, but several have been offered relocation on the mainland. In terms of the population on those islands, Bequia has a population of 5,300, Canoan 1,200, Mairo 300, Union Island 2,700, and a large part of the population on the three smaller islands are living in shelters or makeshift accommodation at this point in time. The majority of the affected residents have been relocated to the mainland, but others remain on the island. So there's approximately 1,009 displaced persons currently in emergency shelters in St. Vincent. And I know that on the 6th and the 7th of July, the Rotary Clubs in St. Vincent, they did a shelter crawl where they would have gone to 41 shelters on the mainland in St. Vincent, met with the different persons at the shelters, assessed the needs, gave water, gave snacks, and I know that they intend to go back and supply some of the basic needs that were immediately identified at that particular trip. Power, water, and internet are still in the process of being restored island-wide on the islands of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So what are Rotary's initial plans for St. Vincent and the Grenadines? The shelter crawl, which I mentioned. There's also a medical support floating village doctor exercise that is planned for the 13th to take place off the coast of Union Island. And another idea is to provide school supplies project for children of the affected families in August. So those are some of the initial plans. Also, there's a focus on mental health because it was identified that there's a need for psychological support coming out of the disaster to many of the displaced residents. so that Rotary St. Vincent would be focusing on mental health support, on rebuilding the schools and the areas in terms of education that has been affected, and of course trying to put back in place programs to grow and support the economies. For example, farmers who would have lost everything, to try and give back support to them economically. So what have we done? In terms of the immediate response, the districts would have immediately offered helping hands and supplies to those impacted. In the short term, we would have raised funds to help provide affected communities with food and materials to establish their day-to-day operations. What do we intend to do in the long term? We intend to complete our assessment to plan and implement projects that can rebuild the affected communities. The support required would be resources to support the local economic activity and agriculture, and donations to both districts, District 7020 and 7030, would be most appreciated. Let us support one another. So that's it in a nutshell, the islands impacted, what has been happening. As I mentioned at the start of the conversation, we do have further updates from 4 of the PDGs who would have visited the islands. So at this point in time, I think it might be useful to take some questions that might bring out those updates in the meeting. I don't know if you have any questions in the box, but Sonia, you could perhaps take the lead on the question and answer.
Not seeing any questions in the box.
I can take the lead on asking one or two, which I mean, I asked and I think is useful to know. So having visited Canoa and Carriacou and Union Island yesterday, what is the state of the medical sort of facilities or healthcare that they have available on those islands?
PDG David, are you gonna start that ball rolling?
If you want me to, but you can go right ahead. You can
I'm
feel free.
happy to defer to you, sir.
Okay. Good evening, all. So to answer that directly, I don't have all the information that we may need, but suffice to say that those both, in all cases, those institutions are badly damaged. In Carriacou, in being specific now, Carriacou, the Samaritan's Purse group is there, and they've set up a field hospital, and they are fully set up in their own tent village. So that's I'll be honest, that's impressive what they have done in just 2 or 3 days. That's impressive, and fully self-sufficient. They aren't dependent on anybody. So they've taken in everything, their own accommodation, their own 4-wheel drive Jeep, everything. And of course, they have money, they have their own plane. And so the idea is that they're self-sufficient there. There is not the same on Union, unfortunately. Union is in a bad way in that respect. They have nothing that you can see that is going to be anywhere near what Carriacou has in that particular respect. However, if Brian, I know that the St. Vincent Club was going to join this meeting as a group online, and if they are there, Brian may want to say, or Donette may want to say something about medical outreach that may be very relevant to your question. So let's just see if they're here. Anyone from St. Vincent can hear us? Donette, Brian, anybody? I'm actually looking through the list. I don't know under what name they're signing in, to be honest. So,
David, I think we have the AG from St. Vincent. I'm seeing Janelle on the call.
Janelle is on, well, yeah, whoever, Janelle, any of the above. But I know there was going to be a plan for some medical outreach. So I was just wondering if they had an update on that. I don't have the details. So I just know But that's what they were planning. Janelle, are you there? I'm not seeing her in the list.
Okay.
Yeah,
came
she's
up.
there. She's there in the list. She's there in the list.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good night, all.
Yeah, Rotary
Good
Club of St.
night.
Vincent is there, yeah.
PDC, are you
Yeah, we were asking if y'all wanted to update us. Hi, we're wondering if y'all wanted to update us. The question was about medical facilities in the islands, and we were speaking on Union and specifically. So I didn't have an update. If y'all could update us on y'all's plans for medical outreach.
I will turn you over to TP Francois, given that he's leading that. One moment, please.
Okay.
It's me. Just give a report on the chart. You're online.
What do I do? Sorry. Hey, David.
Hi, Francois.
Collect back that list. Is this a personal thing or is it I could barely hear you though. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, we're hearing you now. All 92 of us. There are 92 of us online.
Okay. David, this is the situation where we are now. We have the boat, we have the how do you call that? The machinery to put in the boat. We're now getting the crew together. I finishing the partitioning, the floor partitioning for 10 doctors. Looking 20 students, looking 20 students for triage, and all the rest the Rotary crew to come down as much as possible in their numbers. Some to help clean up and some to help the triage. At the same time, it will be 2 mobile units that will go on the road to visit the shelters and the houses where people have been hosting, up to 15 people living in one house. I'm sure you've seen that when you get your visit done. So we will have some local guys that drive that. The crew that I'm looking at for the shelters is 2 doctors, 2 students, and possibly a pharmacist to dispense the medication. Whatever is not available within the our particular program, we've gone back with the prescription, buy the medication, and send them to the patient themselves. So it's not going to be like sending boxes and ask for somebody to do it. We're going to prepare the prescription. We did it. That's why we do most of village doctors. So we're actually tackling the patient themselves. The idea is screening and the very urgent care. Patient that would be more than likely identified have been in not critical but in need of deeper help will be bringing back with us on the boat, and then more than likely sent to the various hospital or what do you call that, district clinic. So pretty much everything is organized, no problem. We get quite a fair amount of funds so far, but we still of course welcoming donation, and then that's basically where we are.
And that's on Sunday.
That's on Sunday. We're gonna set sail. Make sure you reach on Saturday night. That no flight at 4 o'clock in the morning. So we're setting sail at 4 o'clock, and we're trying to reach there for 8:30, so we could disembark the machinery as early as possible and start the cleanup process. Oh yeah, we're getting some people from Vinlek as well to come along with us to advise on what best and how best somehow rewire some of the houses and to make the best use of the generators.
Right. Okay.
They are going to as well disconnect some of the lines. That's what I was told by an engineer. They will disconnect some of the lines, cut them off, so they could move the posts that have been like obstructing the passage and make sure that it's safe to remove all that.
Great. Wonderful. But from a medical point of view, if I may, DG, from a medical point of view, when you were there with the doctors, would you sort of have a look to see what's needed at the hospital, so that you could give us after that you can give us a report on the hospital, probably the needs at that particular hospital.
David, I don't want to cut you off there, but I was there on Sunday. So I discussed with Dr. Williams, which is the district doctor up in Union, and there is a crew of 12 French civil security or pompiers or whatever you call that, firefighters, that are actually right now securing the roof of the hospital and going to work as well a little bit on the on the accommodation. The generator is already operating. They're putting back the water tanks and the guttering. The solar heater is operating, and they have a little bit of solar generator, a small one. So the hospital should be operating, if it's not when we go, in the next few days.
Great. That answers the DG's question. Thanks for that, Francois.
From there, those 12 guys, they send 10 days or 12 days. Those 12 guys, they move in from the hospital to the airport to get the terminal reoperating. And from there, they move into the school, which is a shelter, and they're going to transfer the police station on the other side, so the police station will be able to operate again. So plugging back all the generators and all that thing. So those guys are working pretty good, and they start, a bit of emulation on the rest of the population that start working on that. Very educational. Well, I'm sure you've seen most of what I've seen as well. So
yeah, they started on the roof of the airport while we were there. We saw that going on yesterday. Yeah.
Right. So what they needed is a bit of a boost, a bit of a encouragement, I believe. Because when we were there, there was just sitting and you didn't know where to start from. So
that seems to be the general modus operandi of everyone in those affected islands. They're very much still in shock and sitting around. Thanks, Francois. We have a question from Jean-Marc in Martinique. In addition to the funds we'll be passing on to you, we're still planning to organize fundraising events. What do we need? Among other things, we can have medical supplies, water, food, tarpaulins, and cleaning materials. Is this necessary? And where should we send them?
Yes. Who sent that question?
Jean-Marc from Martinique.
Oh, not Jean-Marc from Union.
No, Jean-Marc from Martinique.
Okay. They have collection point. I could send you. I don't know if it's still all active. The French military boat did already 2 rotations with about 200 tons of equipment each time. So there is a lot of. The second rotation was construction material. They including prefab houses. So I don't know where they stand with the need and construction and tarpaulins and all that. I mean, they receive a lot of those, and well, I don't know.
Maybe we can transfer that to Carriacou, and where
Myro, yeah.
Yes, I'm not too sure. The collection point. You want to know where it is in St. Vincent or where it is in Martinique?
No, which country? I think what Jean-Marc is asking, which countries need their help most, and since that it seems that Union has been getting some support from the French government and so on. Maybe Jean-Marc, we can direct these and to and to the community core that we have.
On this one, I don't think that could be. My view on this one, on that type of question is not like a hard decision. It's more like an engineering decision. Who needed the most? Is at what point, at what stage, this particular island or those particular individual are ready to put back some galvanized, for instance. So who has gone the rafted first will get the galvanized, and then, you know, it's going to go that route. So it's more like an engineering decision rather than a hard decision to see how far and how much and how we help in. That would be more my because if you see in Can 1, for instance, Can 1 has gone real fast. All the debris have been practically removed. You've been in Can 1 as well, no?
Yeah.
Yes, we went to Clean One. There
Right.
was
So you can
cleanup
see the
going
difference.
on.
I mean, it was badly affected, but Can 1 has gone a lot faster. So I guess the supervision, the leadership, and possibly as well the money that's been injected in Can 1 is a lot more. But there was a lot of machinery working on Monday, and practically everything is clear. So you could see the damage. Most of the houses don't have roof, but the tarpaulins are going on right now, so they're ready for galvanized. As of Union, they're still ready for bulldozers.
Absolutely.
They need bulldozers.
Correct.
Can 1 could start the reconstruction. So does it mean that Can 1 did less help? Maybe they're more advanced in their organization. That's all I'm saying. And so I haven't seen Kayaku, I don't know. But right now is to boost back the island and the mental of the people.
At this stage,
and the rest will follow.
We're really in the finalizing stage of what sort of help we're going to be giving to each country, each affected country, and how we go about that. So, Jean-Marc, I think we're gonna take your question offline and add that to the pool of things that we're going to be doing so that we can make the best decision for where things go, because there's so much damage and so much destruction.
For sure.
Peter Pompey is saying we should probably contact the Regional Disaster Preparedness Agency because they will usually get these things rolling. So yeah, we're in touch with everybody, Peter. So they would undertake an assessment and be in a position to know what is needed. So yeah, we're in that stage.
But isn't it that Rotary should actually tackle one project in each island? I know, for instance, the CMO today after the meeting said that the staff quarters for the hospital should be the first priority, so the hospital could function normally, because right now they're not sending back any doctors or any medical personnel because they have no way to accommodate them. So is it like, for instance, that we need to work as well on a temporary project, because you're going to have in September about 400 or 500 kids that need to go back to school. They have no school to go back to. So those guys are going to be in the mainland. Is it like we could organize some dormitory, or, you know, like facilitate some back to school packages? Because it's frightening to see the school is not going to open anytime soon. I mean, that's facts. And I don't know if the government has to plan to do what they've done is here to put some temporary school in. But if it's not in plan, they don't have the land to do that, I believe. So if not, that is not planned. You have 400 people that's going to be here right there on mainland, on top of the already crowded school that we have. So that is going to be a bottleneck that I think we should work on, just to bring back some normality.
So
Agreed.
just one of the things I see Vin asking there about what about accommodation for patients. So I think we gotta remember that we are only Rotary, we can only do so much. But I think what was said before is that government is already re-roofing the hospital, and the requirement is for the staff quarters now, because it's a rotation of staff. They come from the mainland over to Union, and they have to rotate. So you have to have somewhere to accommodate them. So that's
Absolutely.
it. So John, when you go, that's one. When you go on Sunday, have a look at that so we can get an. I know Brian is onto that already, PDG Brian. So speak to him on that and have a look at it so we can see if that could be a project. And PDG Leslie is there quiet, but Carrick, who has the I would even I don't want to minimize any other island, but Carriacou is like all the others on steroids. Carriacou is bad, real bad. So we need to get some help down to them too. And in the cases, all the cases that Sonia, Brian, and myself and Leslie looked at, we're always asking about the hospitals, the schools, and the old people. So we're all on the same page. Really and truly, we're all on the same page. Because we can only do so much. So we do a project that can get something, get a school back up, get the hospital back up, something that we can help with. So yeah, so I'll keep quiet for a bit. Please, DG.
If I may say, David, yeah, with the group that we identified a working group for Carriacou because, of course, Rotary has no feet on the ground there. And they're all happy to pitch in and help. And they, after yesterday's discussion, they identified a possible project could be the senior citizens' home in Carriacou. I'll tell you, Francois, just like Union, much of the kayaks, as we call them, are in a daze. They're still in a daze. They're not really coming out. They're not doing much cleaning, unfortunately. Carriacou really needs a serious cleanup. As you say, really a bulldozer to move aside stuff to make room for construction. So it's in a terrible state. And we need to do some serious cleanup campaigns for Carriacou, moving all the debris, separating the timber from the metal and moving them apart to make room for some construction. Immediately, tarpaulins are needed there because a lot of the roofs are gone, and even more than tarpaulins, tents for that matter, to give people some little bit of safe shelter for the time being. They say that they are okay for food. Some of the supermarkets can function, some are functioning. Water, tons of water in Carriacou, quite apart from the cisterns of the houses. There's quite a lot of water there, honestly. So they're saying water and food is not a problem. Reconstruction of housing is what is needed. And of course, government has to set in some strict regulations on the reconstruction process. I dare say that if we are to undertake this proposed project of the senior citizens home, it has to be in consultation with government, the planning authority and so on to get proper authorization to rebuild. As far as I know, some of the critically ill patients have been relocated to St. George's. Carriacouians do not want to leave their homes. As bad as it is, they've been offered accommodation in St. George's, but they are resisting having to move. A few of persons from Petit Martinique have moved to Grenada, a few of them. Okay.
Thanks very much, PDG. Leslie, I know we have a short time frame on this call, so I just want to kind of manage some of the questions that are in the chat before I send back to DG Debbie. Has there been a timeline for each phase from relief to cleanup to rebuild for each affected island? That's from Andy. No, not yet. It's being worked on, Andy. Every day, as I say, people are in a daze, so we're working on that. The government is working on that. Everybody is trying to help where that is concerned. Frank wants to send pharmaceuticals, so he would like to know where we can send them. So just bear that in mind. Frank Menadi in Guadeloupe. And of course, President Vin talked about staff quarters. What about accommodation for patients? You heard, Vin, that the roof is being worked on in most places, that those are the priority places that people are starting. So schools are very important for the kids, a place to feel safe to go to. That's from Lise, and very much so. Those are the places that we looked at as well in each location to see what was the condition and how, if possible, those are places we can go. Vin is asking about school accommodation. Any strong buildings still standing, such as churches? Vin, if you see the Catholic and the Anglican churches in all of these islands, there in Carriacou, there's barely roofs left, and those roofs are the roofs that have the hurricane straps, very evident. Similar in Union, there are no roofs. The churches are barely open. So it's a massive, massive job and many, many years of rebuild going on. And indeed, Rotary's assistance will be looked at for a long time to go. So, DG, those are the questions in the chat. And thank you to PDGs, David and Leslie for your input. And 70-20 and 70-30, just know that we're on the ground. We're looking at what needs to be done and the best ways for our donations to be used. They're not going to be used frivolously. So thank you very much, DG. Debbie, back to you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining the call. This was really an initial call to touch base and for everybody to get an idea as to where we are at. We will definitely have more updates moving forward. There are a lot of Rotarians on the ground who have been involved in terms of assisting and continuing to do work in the islands impacted. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. Continue to be people of action. We will continue to be active and to ensure that we get the support to those who are in need. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.